All right. All right, all right, all right. All right. We got a whole new setup now. Temporarily. It's only temporary. I got junk in the back. I don't see my junk in the back. Still like this. I don't have to see my junk in the back. Still gonna see my junk in the back. All right, we doing good today? We doing good. So you kind of know what this whole thing is about. So let's begin. I can't hate on this movie. I really can't hate on this movie. There's nothing to hate on this movie. It really isn't. It really isn't. Now, this movie is very somewhat accurate, you could say. Well, let's dig into the whole plot of this whole entire movie. But before I get into the plot, there are spoilers, and it'll be heavily spoiled. So, if I was y'all, I will watch the movie and then come back to this later. Or if you don't care, continue to keep watching. But this movie, I'd say this movie is better than the first one. I did not like the first one, for one. I think not having Spider-Man in it, the first one, and not having Spider-Man and Venom and have that connection to their whole rivalship, I thought that was missing, but I guess to some, it worked out well. And I think even up into this movie, I guess it worked out well. But the whole thing, I keep thinking, this entire movie, there needs to be Spider-Man. Well, let's get into it. So, this movie starts off with a little backstory with, it's about to call him Cleveland Cassidy, but Cletus Cassidy. A little backstory between Cletus Cassidy and Shriek, real name Francis. And, they're like lovers. And I think I know Francis is taken away because she's way too powerful with her sonic scream. She's kind of like almost, kind of reminds me of the Black Canary in this movie. Hey, she seemed more like Black Canary than actually Black Canary was in Birds of Prey. But anyways, so these two are like lovers, teenage lovers, somewhere in California, '96. They changed everything so far. The first one was in San Francisco. Now you have the second one in San Francisco. Originally, as we all know, Venom takes place, not Venom, but most of Spider-Man stories take place in New York. But there is a story when Venom does go out and become his anti-hero Lethal Protector storyline in San Francisco. That's where they got that from. For the ones that don't know. But anyways, so yeah. Shriek and Carnage, or Cletus Cassidy, lovers, whatever. It's weird. I didn't catch this, but somebody pointed this out after I actually seen it. I'm looking at some of the reviews that they use Woody Harrelson and Naomi Harris's voice for the younger versions of them, which are totally different actors. So I thought they de-aged them, but de-aged at least Woody Harrelson, but they didn't. You know who could have been a perfect person to play Woody? Oh, not Woody Harrelson. Perfect person to play Woody Harrelson. Perfect person to play Cletus Cassidy, but I think he's probably a little bit too young. Could have been that guy from Gotham that played the Joker, or supposed to play the Joker. I just thought about that when I was watching the movie. But anyways, these two are all, like I said, lovers. They're taken away from each other because Shriek is too powerful and it's causing too much stuff at this orphanage where they at. And as she's being taken away, she tries to escape and basically makes this officer named Mulligan go deaf. And then she's shot in the head by this same officer, which is accurate because that did happen in the comic book. She was actually shot in the head in the comic books, as I explained. I'm going to explain. But so yeah, she's actually, her character Frances Barrington, get that right, aka Shriek. Her story actually starts off, she has actually a troubled childhood. To the point, she is teased for her weight. She gets caught caught in drugs and then actually becomes a drug dealer. And then I think she gets shot in the head trying to escape from the police. I think something like that. And then I think she gets her powers from like a visit to Cloak and Dagger. If you don't know who Cloak and Dagger is, look him up. But Cloak's Cape Dark Dimension, I think that's where she got her powers manifested from. But they didn't really say where her powers came from, really, in this movie. But yeah, she's eventually shot in the head and sent to Ravenclaw, which is actually in New York, but for this movie it's in San Francisco, California. And then we skip ahead with Eddie Brock. He's still going back and forth with the symbiote, or Venom in this case, and they're interviewing Cletus Cassidy as a grown-up now, and they're trying to figure out where the bodies are at to these people who Cletus has killed. Now that's very accurate in itself, but Eddie and Cletus relationship technically it started in the jail, because it's San Quentin in this movie. It started in the cell, but they was both in the cell. They shared cells in the comic books. In this case, Eddie's a free man and Cletus is in there. So that's based, we'll get to that later. But they're trying to find the details of where Cletus kept his bodies, and Cletus basically wants his story told, but he also wants a message relayed to his lover in Francis, which they don't really say where that Ravenclaw and San Quentin is really at in this movie. They're in Northern California, I guess. But I don't want to get too bogged down with the plot. So there's several different parts that happen in this movie. So we have a back and forth, not so much it kind of is a back and forth between Eddie and Venom. It gets to the point where Eddie is actually starting to get tired of Venom, because there is a part in this movie, it's a couple of parts, Venom tries to actually be there for Eddie. Like, there's the one scene in this movie when Eddie's ex-fiance, Anne Welling, whatever you want to pronounce it, tells Eddie that she's basically getting engaged to her boyfriend that you saw in the previous movie. I forgot his name at the top of my head. And Eddie's kind of heartbroken that she's getting married to a different guy, and Venom tries to cheer him up, but also Eddie points out that Venom has kind of been a thorn in his back, literally at this point. And it kind of gets deep between them, because Eddie is driving his new motorcycle, because now he's got all the fame for actually revealing Cletus's body count, or where the bodies were buried at, which is actually, Venom actually kind of did some of that, because his photographic memory, and basically he figures out by looking at Cletus's cell that where the bodies are at and all that stuff. So that part, I would say that's part, it's better well actually Dang, I can't talk right now. Why can't I talk? It's better off actually seeing than me trying to explain it all. But Eddie basically cracks the code to where all these bodies are by via looking at all of Cletus Cassidy's, all this weird writings in his cell. That's basically how they found out. And now Eddie's sort of trying to get back to where he was in the first one, because in the first one he had his own show, had the nice crib, had the women and everything. Now he's just to a dump. But he also gets a new bike and a new TV. Don't forget about that bike and that new TV. And so basically Eddie tries to point out that Venom is just starting to become a thorn in his back. And eventually the two, they squabble and get into a fight, and then eventually they split, and Venom and Eddie go their separate ways. Right before that scene, what leads up to this scene, is Carnage has now, not Carnage, but Cletus Cassidy, since his the bodies have been found, he's pretty much being sentenced to death. And so he invites Eddie to see his death. And basically, I think Eddie's trying to get more, because Eddie's actually working with a cop named the same cop from earlier, Mulligan. He's working with him, which is kind of revealed in little clues. But he's working with this detective Mulligan on trying to figure out trying to figure out where these bodies are. And so Eddie visits Carnage again. I mean, I keep saying Carnage. I just want to say Carnage, but he visits Cletus again, and Cletus tries to get some rouse out of Eddie by saying he's similar to him, trying to basically talk about his personal life, how he just messes up anything. It kind of gets aroused, not so much out of Eddie, but also out of Venom, to the point where Cletus bites Eddie's hand, and Cletus figures that Eddie does not have blood in him that he knows. And that's how, spoiler alert once again, that's how Cletus Cassidy gets the symbiote suit. Now in the comics, like I said before, this two shared cell. The symbiote, alien symbiote, is actually away from Eddie at the time. And the symbiote comes out of nowhere, breaks Eddie out of prison, and therefore a spawn is reborn. And in this case, I guess the spawns to every symbiote, they don't really know they had that spawn, so there's really no connection. So eventually this connection, his offspring I should say, plugs into Carnage and becomes Carnage. In this case, Cletus in the movie, he licks the blood that he got from Eddie, and that's how he gets the symbiote. And then Eddie and Venom basically split. So now, director Andy Serkis was also talking about it was supposed to be a scene when Eddie, not so much Eddie, but Venom comes out. That never happens. That was made to be a joke. There's no SJW in this movie. So pretty much this movie is not woke. So you don't have to worry about that if you're planning on seeing it after my spoiler alert. But yeah. So we move on. Cletus Cassidy is getting sent to death, and as he's getting the lethal injection, boom, it doesn't work, and therefore we get Carnage. And this scene is it kind of copies the scene from when Eddie first got Venom in his system, but this scene is even better because you think Cassidy is gonna die, but no. Carnage keeps him from being alive. And this scene, the first scene when we see Carnage and everything, is very accurate as hell. When I mean accurate, just the design of Carnage is accurate as hell. Very accurate. You got the red and black, and he is just violent in his first appearance, just killing anything. He kills the guards and kills the warden and everything. And then eventually escapes. Ask Cassidy. For some reason, Carnage sounds like a raptor, a velociraptor from Jurassic Park. Anybody who's seen the movie, did you hear that? But anyways, let's move on. So now that Carnage and Cletus Cassidy are out, but I'll get to that later. So Cletus Cassidy's next move is to find Shriek, which he does. And he breaks Shriek out of prison, and we get this whole action scene when Carnage is just destroying all the police and all the law enforcement by himself. But we also realize Shriek has them powers like Black Canary, that sonic scream that is deadly to symbiotes. That and fire. Which is kind of weird that these two are together, but one cannot be together. Meaning Carnage and Cletus Cassidy cannot be together. And it's to the point when Carnage even warns the symbiote, even warns Cletus, that if Shriek does that again, he will eat her, bite her head off. It's kind of odd to see this relationship between these two, because this keeps going on between the movie that Cletus and Carnage are not really all in one. And it kind of leads to Venom and Eddie realizing they need to be one. But we'll get to that later. So now that Carnage and Shriek are out of prison creating mayhem, they want to get married. And in order to get married, Shriek needs to get Eddie Brock. Carnage needs to get Detective Mulligan, responsible for shooting Shriek in the head and giving her a blue eye or something like that, a blind eye. Mulligan, the detective, does not know Shriek is actually alive. And he's kind of weirded out that she is alive because he thought she killed her. And so eventually, what happens? Eddie and Venom has to get together because now the city of San Francisco is on lockdown. You got two crazy bums. I don't call it crazy bums. You got two crazy, insane, murderous people out there, which they do try to capture. So in general, this movie, if you guys have heard of this, is like Maximum Carnage in a way, the storyline. But there's no Doppelganger, the eight-legged Spider-Man, monster Spider-Man. There's no Demoglobin, or Demon Goblin. I know I said Demoglobin. Demon Goblin. There's no Carrion, that demon weird goblin guy. There's none of those people in there. 3 people for part of Carnage's team is missing in this movie. But can't have it all sometimes. It'd be nice just to see those in there. We could have got rid of Maximum Carnage storyline with Spider-Man 2. What? I ain't complaining. So, the 2 complete the mission. In order to complete the mission and get to their Red Wedding, a reference to Game of Thrones, Shriek ends up kidnapping Anne. Carnage ends up kidnapping the detective. Venom and Eddie, they get back together. Because now Eddie's he's reeling because Carnage is everywhere and he thinks the police are eventually going to find him out, find his little secret out. That's a big theme in this movie, secrets. Hiding secrets in this movie. And so only really Anne and her boyfriend and the lady at the corner store really know that Eddie is Venom in this movie. One thing I wanted to point out about Eddie Brock in this, and just in these 2 movies, he reminds me of a weird Peter Parker, in a way. I think that's what they wanted to do, basically have a Eddie, but try to fit some Peter Parkerness into him a little bit, because you know how Peter has that dual life as being Spider-Man and Peter Parker, and he really can't have a girl. He has to choose the girl, have that normal life, or be Spider-Man. It's kind of like this with Eddie and Venom. So I just wanted to point that out. I don't know what they would. I think that was the point of this. But moving on. So Eddie and Venom are back together via Anne before she got kidnapped. And some reason they didn't like seeing Anne in that symbiote suit. It's been like that ever since that comic came out back in like '97, I think, when Anne actually had the Venom suit. And it kind of drove everybody's, gave everybody high blood pressure for some reason. Reasons I don't know why. But anyways, we ain't gonna talk about that. So moving on to the next part. So, like I said, Venom and Eddie Brock are together. Venom has to go save the damsel in distress at a church, which I think they invent Carnage and Shriek kind of envisioned. Also, they burned down the orphanage. They burned down the orphanage. Carnage actually does burn down the orphanage when he was younger, or Cletus Cassidy, but we'll move on. So, we get to this wedding ceremony and everything. They got a priest out of nowhere against his will. And Eddie shows up, and Venom is kind of scared of Carnage because he says it's a red one, and the red ones you don't mess with. And yeah, Eddie has to coax Venom into showing back up and taking over in order to fight Carnage. And he promises he feeds them humans, because that's kind of the basis of this movie in the beginning. That Venom needs to eat human brains, not chickens and chocolate. Yes, Eddie has chickens in his apartment. It's very weird. It's very funny, actually. So we get the fight, which the fighting scene is actually, I like the fight scene. It's amazing. Probably one of the better fighting scenes of all the superhero movies I've seen so far. I am not saying Shang-Chi, so don't even mention that. It's a lot of CGI, of course, but what do you expect? You're talking about stuff that don't exist in real life. Talking about, is Spider-Man even on this shirt? Talking about Venom here and Carnage. 2 CGI characters that need to be CGI characters. Which I don't understand why the critics are even going after that. It's like, if it ain't an MCU movie, they go, sorry. If it ain't an MCU movie, they just go after these movies. But anyway, let's move on. So, it was not too echoey in the playback of this video. So, we get the fighting scene and everything. Carnage is way too powerful for Venom. Way too powerful. And he kind of overpowers him. Meanwhile, Shriek and the detective are going at it, and Eventually, Shriek gets her revenge by hanging the detective way above in the church. But they do make quite use of the sound and fire in this scene, because Carnage does get lit on fire and there's a lot of sound because they're in a bell tower and everything, and the symbiotes just can't take that. So, yeah, like I said, Carnage overpowers Venom. It's way too much powerful. And the only thing I can't help watching this scene, there's no Spider-Man. There's no Spider-Man. This scene is incomplete without Spider-Man. Usually it's Spider-Man teaming up with Venom to go take down Carnage, because both of them cannot take on Carnage by themselves sometimes, depending on who the writer is. There's no Black Cat. No Cloak and Dagger. Alright, we can't have all we want when it comes to the Maximum Carnage storyline. But anyways, so Carnage is actually about to kill Anne, and Venom and Eddie have to muster up all the strength because they got beat pretty badly. And Shriek dies during this whole point, and it gets to the point the bell tower is destroyed by Shriek. Is actually, before she dies, she yells so loud that the bell tower just breaks everything, basically explodes the whole entire tower, to a point the symbiote comes off Cletus Cassidy and he falls down way below. Like I said, Shriek is killed, Anne is saved, and her fiance kind of saved Eddie from falling all the way down because he falls once his tower is destroyed. Cletus Cassidy and Carnage are separated. Like I said before, these two seem to not get along because Carnage actually wants to kill Shriek because of her sonic powers, and he can't take too much of her anymore. So that kind of plays into Venom and Eddie's strategy to defeating Carnage too, because those two even though they have a little bit of differences, they need each other. Carnage and Cletus, not so much. Carnage wants to do his own thing, Cletus doesn't. So after Carnage and Cletus are defeated, the two are separated, and Venom eats the symbiote, Carnage's symbiote. And this is accurate also, because I got look back. It happens. It's Peter Parker, Spider-Man, number 10. Right here. Happens. Let me see it. Let me see it. I was thinking about this when this actually happened, that he ate that symbiote. I said, this actually happened in the comic book. I just can't remember what it was, but I know I got this comic. Pretty much. I can't show too much, I'm getting no copyright. This book is so low, actually it's falling apart on me. Too many moves. There it is. Venom eating Carnage's suit. Trying to get revenge on Cletus Cassidy. Actually, this comic, he's trying to get revenge on Spider-Man, Carnage, and J. Jonah Jameson. We're gonna get to that later. So the day you save Cletus, this is the part I don't like. Cletus actually gets killed. He gets his head bitten off comically by Venom. So there's no more Cletus Cassidy, no more Carnage. They're done. Eddie and Venom have to escape before the police come around, and Mullen the detective, if you guys Spider-Man fans recognize his name, Mulligan, I think it's Mulligan, you realize that this is the host for the hero symbiote Toxin. Because you see his eyes turn blue at the end. And when I saw that, I'm like, ooh, we don't get Toxin next movie? But that has nothing to do with what comes next. So, what comes next is we get to see Eddie and Venom on the beach somewhere, we don't know, somewhere tropical. They're on the beach and they realize that there's only have to be them two. There's only can be them two. Eddie can't be with Ann. He has to let that go. It just has to be them two. Saving the world, I guess. And they go back to a Ruggedy Buck Hotel watching some type of Spanish show on TV, and Venom tries to tell them, this is a post-credit scene actually. Post-credit scene, big spoiler alert, So Venom tries to tell Eddie that he can, like, has a special power that he doesn't know about, and he's about to do it. And then all of a sudden, everything changes. Everything changes for them. They're in a totally different new setting, hotel and everything. We don't know what happens, really. The two are trying to figure out what happens. Venom doesn't realize, but Venom is not responsible for the hotel change, because they're in the Ruckety Buck, like, apartment hotel. Then all of a sudden, something happens, the explosion happens, and all of a sudden they're in a nice fancy hotel somewhere in a resort, and the TV is showing, and we hear a familiar voice on the TV, and all of a sudden a certain person pops up on the TV that we all know and love. We know and love. He's been around for almost 60 years now. Spider-Man comes. Oh yes, I am not lying. Spider-Man shows up. And we're not talking about Tobey Maguire. Unfortunately, we can't get Tobey Maguire. We see Tom Holland's Spider-Man on TV. J. Jonah Jameson on TV. Talking about Spider-Man being revealed as Peter Parker. And Venom gets his long tongue and licks the TV before some guy asks why Eddie's in his hotel room. And that's how the movie ends. That's the end of the post-credit scene. So, we're going to see Venom, Spider-Man, J. Jonah Jameson, all together in the future movie. Maybe No Way From Home, whatever that movie's called that's coming out at the end of this year. Maybe you might see Venom. So what I did like about this movie, I gotta take a couple notes. What I didn't like. Like I said, I liked about this movie, they didn't really shy away from Carnage and Shriek's origins at all. How they met is different. They don't really meet. I don't think Cletus Cassidy really meets Shriek until I called it Shrek earlier. Shriek until like after they become adults, after actually Cletus becomes Carnage, right before the Maximum Carnage storyline. She showed up in Spider-Man Unlimited #1 a year after Cletus and Carnage showed up. So that's not accurate, but it's whatever. It fits the story narrative. They do mention Carnage's rough childhood in a letter to Eddie. And it kind of visualizes that in a weird way. Visualizes him, Cletus knocking down his grandma down the stairs, trying to kill his mom, drilling his dog and torching his dog with a drill. His dad, Cletus's dad, beating the crap. They also mentioned that he almost didn't make it as a baby. He goes to the orphanage and gets beat up by the older kids, but he's actually saved by Shriek. So that's pretty much accurate. He does burn down an orphanage when he's younger, but he did it in this movie as an adult with Shriek. They don't show him throwing a kid or a girl into a bus or him killing an administrator. They don't show that. So that's why I like it. Ravencroft is in this movie. The whole location thing is crazy. I don't know why they choose San Francisco. I know why they choose San Francisco, because Venom does, after leaving New York, does go to San Francisco to do his own thing. But choosing everything like Ravencroft and all that to be all in California, not New York, is weird to me. But I understand how that is. I already mentioned Eddie Brock seeming like a little bit like Peter Parker. What else here? Like I said, that Carnage design is wonderful. It is brilliant. It is good. He sounds like a velociraptor, like I said before. I didn't know symbiotes can make tornadoes, but I think they did a good job showing that Carnage is way more. Venom is good, but Carnage is better. That's why Carnage is one of my favorite Marvel super villains. They should have showed more Carnage in this movie. I wanted to see more Carnage. They showed a little bit too much of Venom and Eddie going back at it. I do like they showed a little emotion between the dynamic between Eddie and Venom, but they should have showed more of Carnage going on the street, killing the street. That's just me. Probably a little bit too much CGI. What are you gonna do? The way Cassidy gets the symbiote, him biting Eddie's hand, and then him licking the blood and drinking it and becoming Carnage that way, that seems kind of weird. But hey, what are you gonna do? It's not a big part of the movie that needs to be docked. Carnage doesn't acknowledge Venom as being his father, and the two was mainly more Carnage not liking Venom. That whole revenge scheme is all just one side between Carnage. And the comic books is neutral. More Venom trying to get rid of Carnage as his son. Shriek and Carnage, they're crazy. They try to capture the essence of maximum Carnage in this movie. They try, but like I said, there's no demon goblin, no doppelganger, no carrion, none of that goes on. No Morbius, no, you ain't gonna get that freaking ever, probably. The comedy was alright, sometimes misplaced, I would say. It kind of fit the mode for the movie. I know sometimes in MCU movies they have a serious moment and they try to throw in a freaking joke in there that doesn't really match. I think the comedy is warranted because Eddie and Venom dynamic is just weird already as itself. And I think Tom Hardy having a good time doing this. I don't like Carnage being killed. Now that we know, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen, now that we know Venom has acknowledged Spider-Man's existence, Tom Holland's Spider-Man, not Tobey Maguire, ain't Andrew Garfield, but anyways, has acknowledged that existence. You wish you could see those two actually team up to take on Carnage one more time, but he ate him. Ate his head off. Maybe it might be Venom versus Doc Ock. Or Venom and Spider-Man versus Doc Ock later, or with Doctor Strange, or maybe it's Doctor Strange even Mephisto. I keep hearing that. I don't know. I'm not gonna say anything about that. How Eddie and Cassidy met is not accurate, but they did meet in the jail, but they weren't in the same jail cell. But I'm not gonna get too much into that. Naomi Harris character? I can't even say character, but she looks like the character she was in Pirates of the Caribbean. Was it 3? 2? I forgot what it was. If you ever look up look up her character, what she looked like in this. Kind of reminds me of what she looked like in Pirates of the Caribbean. At some points with her, I almost didn't feel like that was actually her. Or Shriek, I should say. I'm still trying to figure, is Shriek really black in there? I don't think she's black in the comic books. You never really get to see her in that actual what she wears in the comic books, but comic book outfits and costumes are never really accurate anyways. Come on now. They've been making these movies for the last 30, 40 years. They've never been all the way accurate, especially now. They just do anything. As long as you got that symbol on there. I think that's pretty much it. What I wanted to say so far. I think the big thing coming out of this movie is that we finally get to see Carnage live action. I've been waiting on that for a long time. It didn't disappoint. I'm not gonna say this is a movie that I don't know. I like talking about movies with repeat value or review value. It might. I don't know. It's probably one of the better superhero movies that came out recently. I think it's better than the first one. I know some people are going to say the first one's not better than the second one, or the second one's not better than the first one. They both the same. I think this one has a slight edge, mainly because they do show Carnage, I guess. When it comes to MCU movies, this is not an MCU movie. You know, it might just be tied into an MCU movie now. It's pretty high up there than some of the MCU movies that I've seen in the last few years. And it's definitely higher than Black Widow. I hated Black Widow. Sorry, I was disgusted by that. It's better than some. Probably around that like Ant-Man, Thor, the Dark World range of movies. Could you say? Rating of this movie. 7 7 out of 10. It's about time I come out of a movie and not be angry at it. It's not woke. I think Andy Serkis tried to play us with that one, in which it really wasn't woke. The only thing it said that may have sounded, but really wasn't woke, that freaking is Venom is coming out of the 80s closet, which is metaphor for Venom finally being free from Eddie. But he also realizes that he cannot be away from Eddie, because there's a point in the movie when he's kind of like can't find the right host after he leaves Eddie, and he realizes that he needs Eddie, bro, more than anything. But other than that, you don't really see any SJW. You don't see none of that. It's just a movie. I think he just did just to spark some interest into this movie, spark some rage, get something going. Shoot, when it comes to all the superhero movies that was released this year, now I know we still got 2 more coming out with the Eternals and Spider-Man 3 reboot, reloaded, I should say. It's better than Black Widow. I want to give it a slight bump above Suicide Squad. Yes, I do say Zack Snyder's Justice League is still number 1 superhero movie this year. How many superhero movies have come out this year? Yeah, it's the number 1. It's only been 1. The rest have been TV shows outside of the ones that I've been naming that I reviewed so far. Yeah, so I have to say it's probably number 2, slight edge over Suicide Squad. You want to count Fast and Furious. That's starting to become a superhero series in itself. But yeah, 7 out of 10. I wasn't too mad about it. I thought I was gonna be angry, but nobody was angry. It was a good movie. It's all right movie. Nothing to be jumping over hoops and hurdles for. I have a couple of friends that said they gonna wait on it, but I told them if they don't want to get spoiled by the big reveal at the end, but I heard them watch that film, because you know people's mouths be moving. That's why I had to say, I had to list this movie as heavy spoiler alert, because I do reveal some stuff. But that's pretty much it about this movie that I have revealed. I forgot to do this at the beginning of the film, or film review. Got too much into this movie, but before I leave, I want you guys to do me a favor. First of all, thanks for watching this review. This month of October is gonna be something, because I think every weekend so far there's a new movie coming out, and I think the next one when it comes to movies coming out in theaters is James Bond: No Time to Die. So I will be reviewing that. Hopefully I won't be crying. Hopefully I won't be throwing stuff around, because I'm not liking where this movie is going, and I feel like it's dead on arrival. And then I think the week after that is Halloween Kills. That's another one I'm not too keen on. And then we have Dune, I think, coming out soon. But also we'll be doing out this whole entire month of October. I call it the Franchise History TV Horror Spectacular. It's a month long of me just talking about horror films, TV shows, try to live stream, and just random weird, scary stuff that I may have experienced or others may have experienced. Stories. So if you want to hear some of that, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you turn those notifications on. Make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe, and do all. I had to say subscribe twice. I think he's saying subscribe to get mentioned. People say, I don't know. I'm just guessing. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, share, subscribe, hit that notification button, and I got more reviews. Keep in touch with that Franchise History TV Horror Spectacular, and I'm out. I need to drink some water, because talking about Venom has made my throat parched. So, peace.